Hello, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates, and I'm going to be talking with you today about freedom from victim mentality. My last video I made, individual video I made, was a response to an email I'd gotten from a gentleman named GE from Holland. And I have another email from GE, excuse me, that I would like to read that I think is very powerful. And he asks really difficult questions, and he asks them in a very gut-wrenching way, but respectfully. So you can really tell that this fella is struggling and searching for answers. And I really think we have the makings of a great video here. So I'm going to read the email and then respond from time to time. Dear Mark, thank you for your thoughtful and empathetic personal video reply to my mail message. I heard the voice of someone who's been there and listened with his heart, which was really comforting. Thank you for that. The point where I found you and your colleagues is after 3 years of emerging awareness, coming out of denial of what happened in my youth after reading a book on the subject. I'm a man your age. I worked for 20 years as a psychiatric nurse and later on as a part-time counselor. With the best of intentions, I was denying and projecting a lot of stuff I know now. It was hard but necessary to see this truth and to take action on it. What you say in your video and other videos that you have made is exactly what happens after such an upbringing. Until you become aware and then change your behaviors, you'll get victimized again and again. In my view, you are absolutely right to this point. But afterwards, I still have my thoughts. He has his thoughts where I'm full of crap, is what he's got. Let me explain. He says, in a way, I hear you constantly say, you get what you deserve. Okay, you say, as a child, you are a victim, sure, but after that, you choose ones who abuse you. So it's your own stupid fault. In this way, you excuse the abusers for the fact that you were abused in your childhood. For them, it was a free ride to abuse you, for you were not aware. Well, GE and folks out there, my intention and my tone would never, ever, ever be to give a message where the tone is, it's your own stupid fault. I would never say that to a client. I would never say that to a friend. It just is shaming, and it's not at all what I mean, not at all. I will say, as an adult, it is your responsibility. I'll say that, because your adult life is your responsibility. Whatever you get in your adult life, it is what you've arranged for yourself. So I'm not excusing abusers at all. I don't see them as abusers. The love interest in our lives that we attract to ourselves, that I see them as teachers. And I do see them as gifts. they're recruited by us on purpose for a reason, to help us to grow and to heal and to learn. So childhood is different than adulthood. In adulthood, it is your responsibility to protect yourself and to choose wisely. And if you invite somebody in your life who treats you poorly, it's only because you've invited them into your life that they can get that close enough to treat you poorly. So, and they should be held accountable. If they physically abuse you, they should be arrested. If they sexually abuse you, they should be arrested. And if they need to go to jail, they need to go to jail. If you need to divorce them, then, to protect yourself, then you need to do that. So there are consequences. The last little part of the sentence was very telling for me. For you were not aware. Au contraire, my Holland friends. We are all aware of who we fall in love with. Maybe not up here in our noggins, but in our heart of hearts, we know who we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who are very much like mom and dad. And everybody has a radar system. Everybody's sexuality has been calibrated by their childhood wounds. So if you like somebody and you let them close, it's for a reason. Don't expect that if you grew up with crazy and you've been married to crazy, you get divorced, that you're going to go out and marry sanity and date sanity. It's not going to happen. If you grew up with crazy, you're going to marry crazy. I'll go on with GE's words. But choosing, in my view, is a conscious act. So if you are not conscious, there can be no choosing, not even as an adult. And then you even present this as a loving gift. Love is, in my view, never the same as abuse. So abuse can never be a gift. And certainly no gift you ought to be grateful for. So GE is a fella in pain, and he's very sincere, but he really doesn't understand what marriage is. He doesn't get it, what marriage is. The gift is the pain from people in your adult lives. There's a woman who lives in Evansville, Indiana, who was my foil romantically about 7 years ago. And from a distance, people would say that she was crazy, she was hurtful, she was mean, she destroyed my life. But if I'm so blessed as to make a lot of money selling books about abandonment and shame, I'm going to take a big chunk of that money one day and show up in Evansville and write this woman a check, because I am so grateful for what she taught me. I am so grateful for all that I've learned about relationships and abandonment and shame and addiction. So did I pay a big price? I really did. I paid a massive price, but if it wasn't Christy being my teacher, it would have been somebody else. So I have nothing but gratitude for, somebody could say I got kicked in the teeth, I got stabbed in the back, but you know what? Christy was just being Christy. And she told me from the first second I met her who she was, but I didn't want to believe it. My needy little boy was on a mission. So I don't believe in the concept of abuse in adult relationships. If you recruit somebody to do something for you and then they do it, how's that abuse? it just, this victim thinking is just so ingrained in our culture. I had a session this week where we were talking about this, and a gal who's pretty ingrained in victim thinking, and I just wouldn't budge. I will fight to my last dying breath on this issue, because this is the issue where so much of life flows. You cannot fix a marriage with victim mentality in even one of the individuals. And you cannot have a blessed and healthy life if you think like a victim. GE writes, I think I know what you mean. It's a gift in the sense that it presses you to become aware. Amen. But in my view, it's surely not a gift in the giving sense. These people give nothing, take only, and have only contempt, and at last wish you the worst. That is my experience. Well, that was my experience too. But just because she meant me the worst and meant me contempt doesn't mean it didn't do me a lot of good. It did me a lot of good. And nobody victimized me. I'm a man. I got on my motorcycle and drove 4 hours down to Evansville on a day I shouldn't have been close to Evansville. And I spent time on the phone and emailing, and I opened the door. When you allow people into your lives, it's like you open your front door and go on vacation for a week. All right. And then you come back from vacation, you left your door wide open. Somebody came in and took your flat screen, and your computers. And were you victimized? I don't think so. I think you left your door open. You contributed to your condition mightily. So the other question I have for GE and for myself for that matter is, why do you pick people in adult life who have contempt for you? I was in a situation this past several years where I was in a work situation where there were people who had just blatant contempt for me. And I basically, through assertiveness and directness, sort of chased them out of my life, because I'll not have it. I'll not be treated with disrespect and contempt. And since they've been out of my life, I've been so much happier. I'll tell you that much. And if you'll do that with your love life, drive the contemptuous people from your life by setting boundaries and walking away, and just have people in your life who bless you, you'll be a lot happier, I believe. So it's your responsibility to have people in your life who contribute to you in a positive way. GE writes, you say in the video, deep down somewhere your mother loved you. She was severely abused herself, or something like this, he wrote. I don't know, maybe you are projecting a little bit yourself here and like to believe this about your own father and mother. I don't. Well, GE, my mother was stuck in an orphanage from the time she was born until she was about 3. And then she got picked up by her mother and a little Dutch man, you're from Holland, little Dutch man with an awful raging temper who didn't like her. So my mother grew up with a dad who really wasn't her dad, who didn't like her and who raged at her. So she was damaged by abandonment and abuse. And then my dad, his mother was 14 years old when she gave birth to him. So I'll tell you what, that's a terrible story. He grew up in poverty. He was physically abused by a stepfather. and he was taken advantage of by his mother financially. So, what I want to know is why these couple of uh, kids who were just so broken, why they chose to have 7 children. Um, Me being number 2 of 7, just because of myths in our culture, I guess, that they could leave such awful childhoods and just boom, have a family and a marriage like it's something easy to build. So so my parents were good people and they did love us, and I know they did, but they just were so damaged that they couldn't love. And I'll bet you GE's mom loved him deep, deep down. I bet she did. So GE writes, "This is the trap I struggled with for years, the trap that gave my mother and others the opportunity to keep abusing me even more." Well, my brother, anger is a positive energy. It's like a force field to keep unhealthy, hurtful people out of our lives. And it's on us to have the energy to establish those boundaries. So if you'd have been a client of mine and you told me that your mother hadn't changed, that she's still hurtful, I'd have said, be careful and let's set boundaries, and you maybe shouldn't go spend a week with her at Christmas. You maybe shouldn't lend her money, and don't put yourself in a situation where you can get hurt and taken advantage of. But that's different from thinking that there might be some reason for your mother's hurtful ways of being. So GE writes, and gets a little graphic here, "This bitch, my mother, was a spoiled, self-centered brat from an early age with no conscious and a willful appetite to hurt others. There was always a choice. I am severely abused. I know what it is. That taught me never to do this pain, this abuse to any other living creature myself. These people choose otherwise willfully. No excuses how hurt you were in your past. It's a choice." Well, GE, it is a choice. And just because you were sadistically abused doesn't give you a free pass to murder somebody. If you murder somebody, you got to go to jail and spend the rest of your life in a jail cell. There is no freedom to hurt people without responsibility. GE writes, and also later on, the people you meet, the people who abuse you again, for you are not aware. You are aware, my brother. It's your job to be aware. If you buy a house, you figure out if it's a good house or not. You have somebody come in, do an inspection. And all of my clients know to bring their significant other in to see their therapist, not for a session, but for like 3 years before they get married. And we'll find out if they can do the work. If they can't do the work, they're fired. But we'll get them doing the work, and then they change first, and then we marry them. And if they don't change, we don't marry them. So GE writes, also these people have no excusing their behavior on their past. It's not a gift that they give you. You have not at all a reason to be grateful to them. And that is what you suggest, and I'm opposed to that. It's just again, understanding marriage, GE. Marriage is designed to heal you, and I think it's God's design. Whether you call it God or Mother Nature, I believe there's a being out there that's in control, that planned it all. And we were supposed to reenact the abuse of our childhood because we need to get those psychological defense mechanisms down in order to heal. And I've often said, if I arrive in heaven, I'll ask God, is there any other way we could have done it? Is there any other way people could have got to their family of origin healing without reenacting their childhood? And I know the answer. The answer is, of course, no. GE writes, in a way it makes me sick, but I'm above that now, happily. Others are not. And by such statements, you can make them feel more guilty, I fear. My mother didn't love me, she hated me. At age 7, she yelled at me that she wished I was never born and that I had the devil in my eyes. I empathize with you, GE. My mom once yelled at me that I was going to be a murderer. And I haven't bumped anybody off yet, but you better watch me. No, I'm not going to murder anybody. She also, a couple times, and she was a big woman, like well over 300 pounds, she sat on me. And when I first told this to a therapist, it sort of blew him away because she wouldn't get up. And it gave me like a claustrophobic thing that I've reenacted with a woman in my life where she would do the same thing. So I feel your pain. I feel your pain, GE. She threatened me to send me to an orphanage house many times, GE writes, and actually made a fake phone call when I was 9, faking that they were coming the next morning. She left me anxious and desperate the whole evening and night. In the morning, I sat before the window waiting for the car that would take me away. I was totally broken at age 9, and then she told me that there was no car coming and that this should be a lesson. He was broken by 9:15 in the morning. So I love this man. This GE is a good man. He's a good guy. And I just have loads of empathy on his situation. He was abused by his mother horribly. And it sounds like he was abandoned by his father because I don't hear him talking about his father. GE writes, I can tell you a dozen stories like this, and you tell me deep inside she loved me? I should feel sorry for her or something? Her upbringing is an excuse for this behavior? And in adulthood, the people who abused my vulnerability willfully, they gave me a gift? And I should be grateful to them? Get real is what I think, or please better specify what you mean. So GE, I mean, when I was in my addictive behavior, I abandoned my family. I abandoned my kids, and that did them a lot of damage. And so are they supposed to sit on a therapy couch someday and cuss me? Are they supposed to hate me because I left the family when one of them was in high school and 2 were in junior high? I mean, I hurt them. But you know what? My addiction was so big, there was no stopping it. It felt like I didn't have a choice. I was sick. I was out of control. So it's about having grace in life, my friend. And it's about understanding how, who are we to pick up a stone and cast it? Because we're not perfect. We're far from it. GE writes, because in this way I think you are re-victimizing victims. And maybe you conclude this is victim thinking, and then in a way, maybe you are right. I think the acknowledgement of being a victim as a child or as an adult, it is essential to say fuck off with their childhood or whatever excuse the abusers want to use is what is important to start any healing process. No, my friend, you're wrong. You're dead wrong. You need to get your focus off of the abusers in your adult life and onto yourself. You're not going to keep people from abusing you until you get healthy yourself. And you cannot when you're filled with rage and you're filled with hate and you're filled with hurt. And you still are, my friend. For me, he writes, it was such a comfort to finally get rid of the guilt and shame that my mother and others later induced on me, to finally get very angry at those selfish, sadistically jealous people. I think I know what you are saying. They have their own story of abuse or whatever, but they have a choice. They chose to abuse. That's what they gave to us. That's not a gift in the sense of them trying to give us anything good. Certainly not something to thank them for. And again, Christy didn't mean to give me a gift. She was just sort of using me for her own purposes. But I found a gift in it because I went looking for a gift. I went looking for, why did I involve myself and expose myself in that way? And that gave me learning and insight. Mark, I felt your heart through the video, and that's not the point. Again, thank you for that. And I had to share this with you. Best wishes, GE. So God bless you, GE, and we'll talk some more. I got another email from him, so we'll probably have another video. So anyway, thanks for watching the video. Those of you out there who are interested in working with me, who maybe can't afford my fee of $175 for every 50-minute session, I have a fantastic new associate who is just hungry to learn, and she's spending a lot of time with me, and I'm just filling her mind with the way that Mark Smith works and the way that Family Tree works, and she would be a great therapist to work with you for a lesser fee. She has a doctorate. She's real smart. She's real empathetic. Her name is Amy Dansby, Dr. Amy Dansby, and she's on our website, familytreecounseling.com. But I strongly recommend you to reach out to her, and her fee is just $115. So I really recommend her. Buy the books on the website and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so. Thank you so much. God bless.